So let's go ahead and take a look in the Tekla model to see how we can get the proper exports to send over to SimgaTUBE. So the first thing that I'll do is just come in and filter out everything except my stair and rails so that we can easily see these. You'll notice here in the model there are already some existing rails. These are modeled properly so that we can send the export. You'll also notice here that I have some stairs where the handrail hasn't been modeled yet. We'll go ahead and add that in just to show you the settings that are used. And then again, here's just some examples of rail that have already been added into this project. So let's go ahead and focus here over on this stair. We'll just add in one run here so I can show you the settings that you need to use and then show you how to create the export. So the first thing that I'll do is just come over here to Still Detailing, down to Miscellaneous. We can choose the handrails. And then the tools that I want to focus on primarily are 76 and 77. So the first thing that we can do here is put in our vertical posts. So I'm just going to use just regular localized settings here. I'm using the US Imperial environment here. So let's just go ahead and pick our bottom point where we want to start from, where we want to end. And then I'll just choose the stringers that we want to attach these posts to. So I'll just go ahead and click those, hit the middle mouse button, and it will place those posts there for me within the model. The next thing that we can do is come in and add in our horizontal rails. So again, I'm just going to use this regular localized settings here, and then I'm just going to choose the posts that I want to attach these rails to here, and as soon as I'm done, hit the middle mouse button and it will go through and add in the rails. So let me redraw the view to hide the cuts and the welds. Then I'll show you here as I zoom in. You'll notice that these settings is putting in elbows here. You'll also notice if I change my representation, it's just running these from center to center, point to point. And for this specific machine, we're not going to do any of the pipe bending. We're just dealing primarily with the miters and the cope. So I'm going to change my settings to just use miters here for the corners, and then to cope these pipes so that the machine can cut those. Again, if you're interested in the bending solution, that's not what we're discussing today. We're just focusing primarily on sending the miters and the coped handrail to the machine. So let's go ahead and start making the changes. So the first thing that I'll do here, let's go ahead and add in an end return up here at the top. So let me just choose this option here, and then I can just plug in some values here just to get this to pull in. You can make these anything that they need to be. I'll just add in these settings here, go ahead and hit modify, and then you can see that I'll have the end return add up here. You'll also notice that it's using the elbows, which we will go in and modify here. So let's go over to the parameters tab, and the first thing that I want to change is this top rail to stanchion fitting. So instead of it just running square, I want to come in and change this setting so that it's actually going to be coped around that top rail. And here I'm just going to add in a tolerance that will add in just an extra setback for the welding. And then the other thing that I want to adjust is this other rail to stanchion fitting. So how these tubes right here are meeting into the vertical posts. So I'm just going to choose this option here just so that they can be coped around. Again, I'm just going to use this setting. Click on modify so that you can see these changes added into the model. And then I'll also redraw this view. And then let me just change my representation and click on this so you can see how these are now being coped around the vertical pipe. And then also here, again, if I adjust this setting, you can see that this is being coped around that top rail. So we still have the bends there on the end returns, and then also for the top and bottom and middle rails. So let's go ahead and address those now. So if I come over to the Rails tab, these are the settings that I want to change from using any of these elbow options to just use this mitered setting here. So that will go ahead and adjust that for both of my top and bottom end returns as well as my top and bottom rails. So I'll just go ahead and hit modify, and we can see these changes take place within the model. So you'll notice here, again, let me just redraw this real quick. But you can see now I have the miters here on my top and my bottom rails, and then also the miters here for my bottom return as well as for my top return. So next thing that we need to do are to adjust the middle rails. So let's go to the middle rail tab, and again we're just going to make the same change from being bent to a miter option. Let me select this in the model, go ahead and click on modify, and then it's going to adjust these rails here. As you can see, they're right in the middle. And then just like anything within Tekla, if these are the specific settings that you want to use, you can just go up to Save As, save these away, and then the next time that you go to model this in within Tekla, it's going to use all of these same settings. So I showed how you can just model it from scratch by inserting it, just using basic settings, then going in and modifying it afterward. Once you know that these are the specific settings that you want to use, you can just save that away so that when you go in and add in your posts and your rails, you get this same output with the miters and the copes right to begin with, so that you don't have to go back and modify it after the fact. So if I redraw that and take a look, everything should be good to go to export. So what I'll do first, let me just come up here and run a numbering, make sure all the piece marks are assigned properly. And then what I'll do is just zoom out here a little, and let's go ahead and select all of the handrails so that we can include these in the export. So I'll just choose this option and window over the entire model. Now I just have my handrail selected. And now what I want to do is come in and open up the multi-converter. So this is an extension that's available for download on the Tekla warehouse. And what this allows me to do is to export all of these files to a step file, which is what we're going to send into SimgaTUBE so that they can then process them. So the option I'm going to choose up here is one file by assembly mark. So no matter how many assemblies I have selected, it's going to create me an individual file per assembly. And then I'm also just going to change this down to step file. Then if you want to include the quantity, you can do that. And then once I have those two settings set up, I'll just go ahead and click on convert. And then what this is going to do is it's going to go in and grab each assembly, create a step file, name it the assembly mark, so that I'll have a folder once this is done with an individual file per assembly. So here's the folder with all of the step files that have been created. I have a free CAD viewer that allows me just to view these step files, or I could just insert them back into Tekla. Well, let's just go ahead and take a look at this here. So this is the one that we just created. You can see that it's exported these as just nice straight tubes with the nice cuts, which is what they'll use in SimgaTUBE. And for the machine cutting, if I close this, we can take a look at one other example. Let's say that we look at A707. And if I just zoom out so we can view the whole thing all at one go and spin this around, again, you can see that it just has the nice cuts that are positioned here that we can then send over to SimgaTUBE. So that's the workflow within Tekla. Just go in and create your handrails. Make sure that you're using just the mitered options instead of bends. And then also for the copes, if you want to include those, the machine will be able to do that. So then I just take these files, send those over to SimgaTUBE so that they can be processed. So David, I'll hand things over to you.